technology it doesn't always save us time, but it usually gives us a huge advantage. One of my favorite quotes ever is, "The history of art is directly related to the history of perception." Jonathan Crary. It's a book I read when I was in architecture school. And it kind of opened up a lot to me. If you take the Renaissance and you take perspective, that was, art and our culture being redefined by essentially what was a technical thing. It was learning, understanding just how to follow a line, how light worked. The camera obscura and the lesser-known camera lucidia, these are pieces of technology that you see hanging on the walls when you go to an art museum. But since so much time has passed, people don't often talk about, those artists of those days being gearheads, being nerds at the same time. When Cartier-Bresson took a little rangefinder camera and walked out to take pictures, the camera was not something that people identified. Not everybody, it was a technical leap to actually have, it used movie film, 72 millimeter movie film, in a tiny little thing that you could carry around. So as you look at these amazing photos, you have to think to yourself that these people just thought he was this weird guy with a little box. It's not the same reaction that you get now when you approach somebody on the street and put a camera in their face. When Robert Frank in the 1950s came to the United States and toured America and produced this phenomenal book called The Americans, he had Kodak Tri-X film, which was new. He could take pictures in lower light quickly. He could do something that nobody before him or the photographers before him could not do as easily. And that's how he could pull off these images. And they were so new to us. And they're then recorded in history because it's that shift in perception of what can be done that kind of drives the artist. Did you guys know that for about $200 you can get this little thing that sits on your desk like a printer, and it can do die cutting, send it an EPS file from Illustrator, it can cut anything out. So I had been telling my students about this for years, and I didn't have one until my wife decided that we needed family vacation shirts to go to Disney World, right? So it was that going to the store, like seeing an idea, going to the store, getting this thing, a tool that then inspires you to go home and make stuff. And it doesn't have to be that complex. So we get a nice paintbrush, and because you have a nice new paintbrush, you want to sit and spend some time that weekend working on it. So I've always been a quartermaster. Even my role at the studio, I'm always the one that wants to talk to everybody about what tools they're using and why. I like this guy, but that looks closer to me. That's the younger, nerdier kind of quartermaster. My agents look more like this, though. This is a shot of my studio. So this is my team on Halloween a couple years back. Because I dress like this every day. So they decided they were all going to dress up like me, and I walked into the studio, and I didn't notice for a couple minutes. And then I became very aware of what was going on, and it's the first time ever I got really self-conscious about what I was wearing. And they also strap things to their belts, which I don't really think I do a lot, but apparently that's how they think of me. So the core toolkit for a designer is, a good designer, and the designer has a little asterisk because my viewpoint here is an interactive designer, and I know that some of you are going to be the kind of interactive designer that actually wants to spend a lot more time figuring out how JavaScript works, and some of you, and that's fine, just want to sit back and design it and let other people deal with that. But I think that the interactive designer on the whole, your core toolkit is going to be a sketchbook, a creative tool, whatever app, whatever thing you need to take what's in your head and actually make it and hand it off to somebody else. and a text editor. Like, with those three things, you should be able to pull off anything. Everything else that I'm going to show you is kind of on top of that, or everything I'm going to show you is inspiration to make this part work best. I made a slide about a sketchbook. You guys have your sketchbooks, yes? How many people have a sketchbook? I see one, okay. It's still, I mean, we should all draw something every day, and it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Most of my drawings from day to day at work are just stuff like this, little UI sketches and instructions for somebody else, but at least I'm thinking as I'm drawing. So Photoshop, you guys know Photoshop. I don't have to spend a lot of time talking about Photoshop. I want you to all make sure that you are managing your colors profiles. If you've never done that, you actually need to do some tricks in Photoshop to make sure that your color profiles are right for web. Have you guys seen Generator? Have they showed, have you seen Generator? A lot? I'm kind of late to the Generator game. So I have a link here to a blog post that we did a couple years back that's one of the fundamental lessons in my class, which is the best possible way to take scanned artwork and prep it for design. So I'm not going to go over that, but if you want to find me, I'll walk you through it. I'll be around tomorrow. I'm going to show you new tools. Illustrator and Photoshop have been around for a long time. They're like 20, 25 years each. They still are where we go to do most of our work. Generator kind of knocked my socks off because it can do a couple things that you haven't been able to do in Photoshop. So essentially, how it works is you can take any, well, I'll show you. It's built into, it was automatically added to the latest version of Photoshop, so I have a little demo file here. So I think I have it on the slide. It is, yeah. So if you Creative Cloud and you have one of the latest builds, it's already in there for you. It's going to work like this. So this is a regular Photoshop file, and next to this, I'm also going to show you, this is the folder that Photoshop file is in. So it's just called PS Generator, like that. In the File menu, you have a new option called Generate, Image Assets. You turn that on. And then what it does is it uses layer names to take any layer or layer group and export it. So this is the little Discover icon that's sitting right there. And if I simply just go in here and change the name of the file to discover.png, what happens is there's now a new folder, and there's that ping. See that? It's pretty awesome. If you click through to find the documentation on it, there's a couple other tricks you can do. If you want more than one file, you just put a comma in there. And if you put a percentage in front of it, it'll actually change the resolution. So if you are now having to create graphics for web that are Retina and non-Retina, or you're doing iOS development or mobile development and you need to create two, then it would work. It would just be 200%. Here, let's try it. So if I say 200% discover at 2x, and then discover.png, as soon as I let go, there we go, two files, just like that. And it'll work with groups too. So this is awesome, yes? Good? I didn't make it, I just show it to you, but it's pretty awesome. All right. Illustrator users, anybody? Anybody? So Illustrator is still the most agile design tool I've ever found. I was the guy that did the little demos that came with, I think, CS3 was my voice. Might sound familiar. So we've been using Illustrator since it started. We have a lot of templates. When we use Illustrator, we use tons of artboards. We try to keep multiple iterations and multiple versions of the same file. There's two amazing scripts. There's one script here that will let you export all your layers as a ping. So it's similar to Generator in the sense that how you name stuff, it uses to create pings of specific layers. And then if you have multiple artboards, so let's say you start a design and you might have your desktop, your tablet, and your smartphone all as separate artboards, this little script that you can drop in will let you actually save all of them as a ping at once, which is super handy. This is the kind of stuff that we do with it. We do all our UX and UI stuff. I'm going to show you other prototyping stuff and other kind of wireframing tools, but I still feel that designers should use wireframing tools that don't look like every other wireframing tool. So we consider the UX and the design and the discovery part still the design. So we like to wireframe in Illustrator as much as possible because we're not constrained by just boxes and being able to drag and drop menu systems. Oh, I don't have the images for these. So Astute Graphics makes two plugins. Have you guys seen the vector? Have you guys done these? If you draw, or if you spend a lot of time working with vectors, then these two plugins, Vector Scribe and the Draw Scribe, are huge. It's going to let you easily clean up your points. It's going to let you trim extra pieces. This is the dynamic corner rounding, which is really nice as well. So these things are worth their weight in gold, and the folks at Astute Graphics are so nice and so responsive. So there's Vector Scribe and there's Dynamic Sketch. And if you draw freehand, like if you have your Wacom tablet and you do a lot of sketch work, what's nice about Draw Scribe is we can do two things. One, there's the repeat sketch mode, to where you can just work over a line over and over and over again, and it'll actually just give you the midpoint of that stroke, so you can refine things really quickly. And then it's got an editing and trimming tool where with one kind of gesture of your pen or your mouse, you can cut off the pieces you don't want. We spent a lot of time drawing in Flash when everybody was using Flash, and there was a couple tricks that you could do in Flash that you'd never been able, and you still can't do in Illustrator without these tools. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is this AI to Canvas plugin for Illustrator that will let you export straight out of Illustrator directly to Canvas. So what that means is, let me do this one. Let's see if this loads. Yeah, this loads. So if you're not familiar with what the HTML canvas is, this is part of HTML now. It's part of HTML5. And essentially, you can create an object in HTML, and then you can draw inside that object using JavaScript. And this is very close to kind of the markup that we would use in Flash to draw stuff dynamically. The problem is that most people who think visually don't want to have to draw things with code. So you grab this little plugin and you drop it in Illustrator. I'll show you this. So this here, no, we don't need that. Okay. So here's a little robot in Illustrator. You can see all these pieces like this. There's my vectors. And if I say File, Export, and I'll just stick it on the desktop, the very first thing once you install this plugin, it actually says Canvas down there. So I hit Export. And what you're looking at now, that happened really fast. What you're looking at right now, let me go back. I'll do this. Let me drag it into another browser that's not full screen. So on my desktop right now, there's a little HTML file. And if I open up that HTML file in Safari, you can see the image, but there's no image file at play here. And see how good it did rendering that kind of complex piece of artwork? If I open this up for you in TextMate, those are the instructions to draw that robot, just like that. And you might be like, I don't really get why that's good. There's a lot of reasons why that's good. One, it's all text, so you can shove it in a database. Right? It gets drawn with code. your developers will get really happy, because if you actually start looking through here, if you start changing color values, you can change the color values of your artwork. So for all those projects you see online where you're interacting with complex things and changing the colors, maybe picking different colors, selecting items and objects, once there's already a lot of people using Canvas to render stuff online. It's been supported for years. But this will let you, the problem with a lot of Canvas stuff is when you see people trying to design stuff for Canvas, it's really lame because they're still trying to draw it with code. This lets you take anything you have in Illustrator and kick it out. So if you're doing any HTML5 games and things like that, this plugin is going to be huge for you. It is good. Yes? All right. So we're still talking about these core tools. The new kid on the block is Sketch App, or Sketch App 3. It's got a huge following. I think what it is there's a lot of people who really warmed up to, was it Fireworks? Right? Who then felt left down when that stopped. I don't have a ton of experience with Sketch App, or Sketch App. I have lots of apps that are called something close to Sketch. But I can show you this. So it does there's two things that it does really, really well. The latest version, which is version 3, supports symbols. And a lot of people, it's tough because we get set in our ways and we like our tools to work like our tools have always worked. And then something comes along that's totally new, and it's interesting to see how many people are like, yay, it's new, or like, that's horrible. My key commands don't work. What's really nice about it, this is your object stack over on the side, and you can take any piece of artwork that you have, and then down the bottom, if you want to export that, you can just say, make this exportable. And this is that one little piece of artwork, so you can give it a size, or you can do multiple ones if you want. So if I add more than one, if I wanted to do 1 at one size and 2 at 2x, you just do that and you hit the export button and it saves it. So this is very much on par with the generator thing I showed you in Photoshop. And there's a lot of people going after this because this part of the workflow, getting these little pieces of our big layouts handed off to other people at multiple resolutions, is a huge deal. The other thing that it does that's just phenomenal is if I make a new template that's not an app icon, but file, new from template, UI design, there is a smartphone app, there's an iOS app that you can use where you can actually work here and see it update in real time on your devices. And you can even do more than one device at once as you're working, which is pretty awesome. All right, so text editors, I'm not going to spend much time on. If you have Dreamweaver on your computer and it is the only text editor you have, then that's fine. Use that. Just keep it in the little mode where it says right here, just the code stuff, so you can actually edit text files. We spend all of our time in the office using TextMate or Sublime. They're both really fantastic. The nerdiest thing you could do is watch screencasts of people talking about their text editors, so I will spare you from that. But we have an awesome bundle for TextMate that will let you kind of scaffold a whole bunch of HTML projects. And then Sublime Text is free for a long, long time. And the advantages to these kind of tools, there's a couple of them. One being that unlike a lot of apps, you can take a whole, I have them here, right? So you can open up a whole directory and actually flip through things in a whole directory as you're working with stuff. And they also have kind of fancy code completion and things like that in there. And one of the things I like is that you can do non-continuous selections. So if you wanted to write something into each one here, you can say like that. So if you haven't spent time just getting used to a good text editor, you should. So then, if that's what a great designer has, then a good designer, if a good designer has those three things, then a great designer has a backup plan and a reference library. And that's really where the second half of this whole conversation comes in. Your hard drive is going to crash. I got to be the guy to remind you that, you should, at any point in time, you want to make sure that you're only going to lose 24 hours of your life. There's a handful of things you can do. Some are free. Just pick one and use it. The other thing you all need to do, that great interactive designers do, is they have a reference library. As they're going through and they're looking at stuff, I mean, how many of you can be like, I saw something once on the internet that would have been perfect for this, but now I don't know where that bookmark went. So this is a subtle reminder that you need to clean house. You should probably have, it can be a folder in Dropbox or on your machine somewhere, your bookmarks, your inspiration, code samples, and just little bits and things that you found that you know works, and then the stuff I give you. So Pinboard is social bookmarking. It's a great tool. You just stick it in your bookmark. You stick it in your browser bar. As you're surfing around, you save your bookmarks there. You can export lists easily for other people. Most of the stuff that I'm showing you today came from bookmarks and Pinboard that either I have or friends have. Dropmark, has anybody seen Dropmark? Dropmark is my new favorite thing. There are sites out there like Pinterest and things like that, but they're very social. This is a completely different experience. So how Dropmark works, it's dead simple. You basically have containers, and you can drag images in from everywhere. And if I go, let's see, here's some line drawings like this. What I like about this is so much better than the folder on my hard drive full of reference images, because one, I never have them when I need it. This is online. Two, it's dead simple to collaborate with somebody, even people that don't have a Dropmark account, so they can add stuff to it, and you can trim things down. It's got a presentation mode, so you can literally like fill up a couple folders full of images you want to talk about in a meeting, walk into the meeting, hit a button, and just flip through them full screen. And then the other thing that's great about this is that unlike just taking images and shoving them into folders on your hard drive, here you actually have a reference for where things came from. So you can still get back to the actual origin. So you don't have that need to like grab all the images in case that website goes down later or you want to show more stuff to other people. So Dropmark is a total force for good. And then Code Drops. Let me show you this. So Code Drops is a site that just gives, let's see, I'm going to go to the articles. So every week or so on Code Drops, they do these demos, and I linked to two here. So usually what it is there's a demo page, and you can download the source. But what's nice about Code Drops is that for the most part, the stuff that they post looks beautiful. Like, you need to find inspiration that's on the technical side too. Like, you need to know when you're actually designing stuff in Illustrator or Photoshop or Sketch that somebody else can pull it off. And one of the best quotes that I've heard about Code Drops is that, designers who said, I like it because I can point to something on that site and tell my developers I want it to be like that. So you can sit down and you can design something, and then if your developers don't get it, you can say, no, just work like this. And then they're extra happy because they can just look at how it's done on Code Drops and just make it work just like that. So it's important for you guys, when you're searching for inspiration, not just to do it in art books, but to do it in places like Code Drops. These transitions for off-canvas, everybody's messing around with these things now, the menu that slides in from the side. But this is like a bunch of different options. Some are horrible, right? Or some are cool, but you'll just never be able to do it, like the delayed 3D rotate in like that. So this stuff just kind of gets your ideas going. Another one is CodePen. Have you guys seen CodePen? So CodePen works on a couple different levels. CodePen, and there's a couple different projects out there like this. it's dead simple. You can get a free account, you can make a new pen, and all you're seeing right now is a window for the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. And why this is important and why this is good for people who are freaked out to even try to start playing with this stuff is in one click, I just got rid of half of the crap that frustrates most people. Got to make a new document, got to put it in a folder, got to connect the JavaScript file, got to connect the CSS file. Here, you write something, you wait a second, there's your preview down there. It's a great way to take personal victories, like I made a cool nav bar. I got it to work all by myself. Throw it in CodePen, and then you always have it. The other thing that CodePen does, and why most people get sucked into it, is it's full of people who are doing really amazing, amazing stuff. So here's the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript to make menus do that. Not that we can all get away with that at work, but it's all right here. It's a fantastic playground, and anything you find, you can just fork, and you can hack away at it. Like, that's what this is all about, playing around with this stuff. So this, more important than even those text editors, get a CodePen account. Start playing around with stuff. Use it as a bookmark site for little things that you find that you want to either spend time on later or you want to share with other people. Good, yes? Yes? Okay. And then I gave you a link. We have a massive, or I didn't need to download it, but right here, we have a repository of GitHub files that's got about 20 or 30 just HTML demonstrations of basic stuff. And I'll eventually put this on CodePen, but if you need another place to play, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you, the JavaScript stuff I want to show you, it's all in here too. Right? So when you make that folder on your hard drive to keep all your resources, you can put this, stick those in there. So as an interactive designer today, our mission is kind of complex, right? Like it was really easy when you could just sit down in Photoshop and Illustrator, design a couple graphics, crack open an HTML file, drop them in, and be like, this is a website. But that's before websites started doing this. And that made it a little trickier. So I think that a lot of people come to me and come to us and we're like, but no, really, what's that tool that can just make the whole thing? And we have to back up and explain why that's kind of tricky. So just play along with me for a second. Forget any of the web technology stuff. Just make a poster. In your mind, make a good poster, and then blink and turn it into a magic poster. So my magic poster has a unicorn with a robot on it, because it's magic. Because this is kind of our job now. Like, we need to be thinking about everything we make for the web or for mobile as a magic poster. So when you hang this magic poster up on the wall, it needs to correct itself, right? It needs to fix itself. And if you are in the magic poster business, then you're very sought after. You get a nice job. You move to New York City, where you have a much smaller apartment. So your magic poster now has to kind of still work this big. And then when you want to leave, you want to take this, you want to show somebody else what you made, your magic poster now has to go like that. Because that's really what we are going, if we're not expected to do that today, that's where all the work is going. All the interactive stuff we make for screens has to work kind of like a magic poster. So if you're like me, when you have this realization, the first thing you do is you say, well, crap. What tool can you use to do that? Because like InDesign and Illustrator and Photoshop, like they're not cutting it. Like, think about the complexity of what has to happen there. We need multiple canvas sizes and things that are flexed and things that are rigid. And then since we're designers, we want nice type, we want transparency, we want all this stuff. And we want it in our design tools, but what we have to kind of understand is that HTML and CSS and JavaScript is that language that makes magic posters. And all the other tools that we're wishing are just going to come along that opens up like a big application that lets you start clicking around stuff. All that stuff on your screen that you're going to be clicking and moving and touching, it's it's just writing HTML and CSS. So in the same way that in order to make a poster, you used to have to sit there and like open a drawer and pull out a letter, and then close the drawer, go to another drawer, and pull out the next letter, like that's tedious. Learning HTML and CSS for a lot of people is tedious. Do you need to know HTML and CSS as a designer? You don't have to, but you have to have a rudimentary understanding of how it works, and you have to be able to point at stuff that you like and say, I want it to work like this. There's still no silver bullet app for writing HTML and CSS. So this is when you're like, you're kidding me, there's got to be something. Like, you've seen Adobe Muse, there's Edge, there's Sencha Animator, there's Tumult Hype. These are all projects that are trying to create little environments where we can kind of point and click and craft HTML and CSS. And there's nothing wrong with them, and it's good that they're working on it, but what we have to understand is in the real world, in our jobs, we're working with other people, right? So as designers and interactive designers, we're designing things, we're speccing things, and sometimes we're working on the front end stuff, but then we're handing it off to other people. So we really just make parts of things. Now, the salvation in this is there's two applications that are rock solid, great apps for designers, interactive designers. The first one, and it does not get enough love, is a little app called Espresso. Has anybody seen or heard of Espresso? So Espresso is, it is an HTML application. You could open it up and actually write HTML with it. What I like to do with it, let me shut some windows so you can see what's going on. So here's Espresso, and I don't want to make a new document. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to find, let me do just I have a little sample HTML project here, and I have a document with no styles in it. So I want to steal this header, and I'm going to go back into Espresso. And this is how I think the best way to use this app is. You go to the preview window, you make a new little web preview, you paste in the URL of what you want to look at, and it's fine if it's a file on your desktop, because that's what this is. It's a file that's on my desktop. And all it's showing me is a WebKit rendered browser showing me my file. But right here under Style Sheets, it's going to list for me all the style sheets that are attached to that document. So when you open one, if it's on your desktop, it's just going to open a blank style sheet for you. What happens now is it's using this style sheet to render this page. So as you start to change stuff, like body, and watch, it's going to do some autocomplete for me. If I go BA, it's going to ask me what I want. I want background color. If I want red, see what just happened? See how it changed it in real time? That's the key here. And it's amazing that more apps don't do this. It actually happens in real time. So if I want to take the H1 tag, and I want to start styling this, and let's put a background color of yellow around this. And then one of the things that was nice about getting comfy with HTML in Dreamweaver is that there was a little panel where you can click on things, and you could see kind of all your CSS properties. Those are all here for you. So if you want to change colors, you can actually use tools like this to change it. If you want to position something like margin left 30 pixels, it just slid this over for me, and then under layout, I can actually drop my cursor in here, and if I hit the up or down arrows, I can move it around in real time. It's great, it's awesome. And what's even nicer about it is this is a file on my desktop. If I open up a new window here, I can go to a live URL, 2+us, little blog that I set up with the wife. So this is a live site on the internet, just like your WordPress site or your Squarespace site or your company site or the new test site that the developers just sent you. You can point Espresso at it. You can just grab the style sheets that you want. So I'm just going to take this main style sheet here. So now it's asking me if I want to override it. So now basically it's going to take the style sheet that's there, but any changes I make here, I'm going to be able to reflect in real time. So if I was to say body, background color, red, I can do that. So what is smoking hot about this as your role as an interactive designer is this is your conduit to talk to your front-end developers or your developers to say, no, 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 I actually fixed it. You just need to change this line here and this line here. Or if you've built a Squarespace site or a WordPress site or a Cargo Collective site and you want to figure out what you need to do to customize it, you can use Espresso as a tool to figure that out, and then you just take whatever changes you've made and you paste it back in to the site, and it works. So Espresso is a force for good. The other awesome tool is Spine. Has anybody seen Spine animation? When somebody first told me about this, it blew my mind, and I kind of didn't believe them. So what Spine is, and let's see if I can open it up here. Not going to upgrade in front of everybody. So Spine is a 2D animation package. So you essentially, it doesn't like my small screen. That's weird. There we go. Let's fix this. So you take pings, you bring it in here, you give it bones and you connect the whole thing, and then you switch to animation mode and you can start to animate and do walk cycles, and it doesn't have to be characters, you can do anything. What's awesome about this is then you export it in a bunch of different formats, and there is a list of runtimes. So what that means is your animation that you just made that gets exported can work in JavaScript, in iOS, in Android. This is huge. And I know a lot of illustrators and character designers and people who work on games who love working in Spine because they only have to do everything once. This literally means that the same animations that you're doing in HTML, you can pull and drop in an iOS application. So this is huge. It was actually a Kickstarter project, a successful Kickstarter project, and they've done, their upgrade cycles are additional Kickstarter projects to add features. So you should definitely, if there's 3 or 4 kind of crown jewels that I'm handing you guys today, and this, Espresso and this is one of them. So nobody builds the web from scratch. We're all building one little piece, and we're borrowing little pieces from each other. So I want to show you a collection of little libraries that you can use to make stuff. And the first one I really like to show everybody is called Shadowbox. And it's nothing fancy. It's the trick when you're on a website and you click on an image and it does that. Yes? So why I like showing this to people is, of all the libraries out there that do this, Shadowbox has the best directions. And the process to get it to work is dead simple. You always start by downloading some stuff. So you can decide here, I mean, you can just do the basic one, but if you wanted to work with images, you download these files. I'm going to show you because this is very important. All right, so right here, I have a little Shadowbox thing. So you always start by downloading what they give you. You download the folder, you stick it in your HTML project. The next step in their directions is, you go back up here. Okay. You copy and paste what they give you, and you put it in the head of your HTML file. So I'm going to go back here, just going to open up this little project. So I have it right here. So what that means is, like, I added their stuff to the head of my HTML file. The next step is, so if I show you what this page looks like, let's do, show you this page. There you go. So everybody should be somewhat familiar with a link. You take a basic link to a file, that's it. An ahref file that links, everything on the internet is a link to something else. So in your ahref file where you link to another image, all you do, the only thing you do to make this work is you add to that link that. And as soon as you put that in the link and you test this file, that link then opens up that. That's how you find a JavaScript library and make it work. And they all work like this. You go to the page, you read the directions, you download the JavaScript, you put it in your folder, you click a button, and it works. Or you put it in your folder, you add the one little line here, the instructions here. I think for the most part, people tend to feel as if using these things are more complicated than they actually are. So that little process is just a quick overview as how they all work. So lettering.js, which is how you can start to do stuff like this in HTML. See that? Like that's not images, that's live type. That's the Word workspace. So lettering.js is a JavaScript library that's designed to let you do stuff like this. There's CodePen demos. So here is a CodePen demo on using lettering.js. You're going to use it the exact same way. You're going to download it, you're going to add it to the header, and then you're going to just learn what you can do. You're going to read their instructions, and it's going to be really simple. This is how you can lock onto one particular letter and position one particular letter. Reveal.js is how my presentation is made. So this is a library that lets you build presentations in HTML, and presentations in HTML are awesome. It's responsive. It works on my presentation will work on a mobile phone. It's got a print CSS, so when you hit print, it looks beautiful. And you thought I did all this from scratch, I know. Another one is, and I haven't kind of showed you this, so I built an HTML presentation for you guys for today. And I'd done this in the past, but what's different about it now is that I actually have a database now that's driving all of the apps that we looked at. So when you click the little grid, you can sort by application, or you can sort by whether it's for discovery, design, development, or management. And if you click on a lot of these, I actually have HTML versions of these pages in which I'm going to continue to write down more information. Because I've been teaching for years, and I'm always mentioning apps, and two of the guys in the studio are also teaching. We're always mentioning apps to students and things like that, and we have little notes in all these other places. So we're consolidating all of these at school.choppingblock.com. So now there's a database of apps there that's running, that's driving the presentation that we're using here. And that was done with this little thing called Isotope. And you see Isotope used a lot. A lot of photo galleries use it. Photo Shelter uses it. I don't think Squarespace is using it, but if you pay attention to more grid-based layouts online, they're using this library to pull that kind of stuff off. So if companies are using it to do cool stuff, you guys should be using it too. And then Swiper is just super cool. This is a touch-friendly. So if you want to have a little gallery or things that you can actually swipe through with your finger on a tablet, this is how you do it. And it's dead simple, and it's gotten really fancy. So if you want the little menu up top where you can click through and do it. Again, the reason why I wanted to show you that shadow box thing is for you to understand that you don't need a computer science degree to download this JavaScript library and start playing with it. Or at least you should spend some time looking at these so that the next time you start designing things and speccing things for your developers, you can point and you can say, no, actually we can do it. It's really easy. It's right here. Okay, so I showed you some libraries. These are 3 responsive frameworks. So if a library is a tool, then a framework is a way of life. Twitter Bootstrap. There's a lot of people who are doing UX and UI prototypes who are starting with things like Twitter Bootstrap. You do not need to touch JavaScript or really CSS to build a fully functional mobile application on the web. Twitter Bootstrap is by Twitter. It is free to use. You have to spend some time getting used to it, but it's a grid system and CSS and buttons and components. And again, you download it, you drop it in your folder, you start integrating these things. The more time you spend looking at Twitter Bootstrap sites, the more you realize kind of how many there are. All Twitter Bootstrap sites kind of look the same, but there's also starting points here that you can build off of. So Twitter Bootstrap is the biggest one. It's the one that's designed for mobile apps. It's got a lot of functionality in it. A lighter weight one is Framework. And an even lighter one, a lighter weight one, is called Pure. So it's basically your responsive grids. Yes, you could you could learn enough CSS and HTML to build your own responsive grid system, or you could just start with a really good one and do your design and do your work kind of on top of that. So a lot of projects that are getting built nowadays are using Bootstrap or Foundation. Pure is new. It's really lightweight. It's only like 4.5K for the whole thing. So the next time the developer's like, I don't want to use a framework because it's going to be too big, you can just point them at this. And then the beauty then, too, is with a little bit of time spent learning this, you can actually start to craft out some front-end stuff yourself. There's prototyping. Right? If you're prototyping for apps, there's a bunch of different ways. I'm assuming that some of you guys have already used these already. There's Flinto, there's Marvel, there's Envision app, and then my favorite is actually this little iPhone app called Pop, which is prototyping on paper. So it's designed to let you, you just do your little sketches. You do your little sketches, you take a picture of it with your phone, and then you just tie them all together and you can hand it to somebody else. You can do testing, you can do, you can just share stuff around super easy with all of these. Flinto and Marvel are apps that have web fronts as well, so somebody can play with your app on the web, or you can run it on a phone. And then Envision app is a much larger system in which you're actually getting feedback from the people you're sharing your app to in real time on the web, so they can mark stuff up and give you notes. So you could take a 6-page website, throw it up on Envision, specify how the interaction occurs between pages, and then people can put notes in real time on top of it, and you can use it in a meeting. I think that's it. There's a one more thing moment. I was super fortunate. So I've been teaching these phenomenal digital illustration students at School of Visual Arts in New York City. And I've been very passionate and hard on Adobe for the last 9 years or so, because their tools that we use every day are fantastic tools, but they're not drawing tools. So last year at Max, Adobe showed the world that little pen and that little ruler, little app. And they had reached out to me last month, and I got to go and spend a week drawing with a bunch of XD designers at TED. It was miserable. No, it was awesome. But I have to say that for as hard as I have been on Adobe, the people that I know at Adobe kind of were like, all right, what do you think of this? It's interesting. It's good. I think it's the start of something really, really cool. So they came and they visited my illustration students. They brought it to my class, one of the first classes I showed it to. And the look on these students' faces was like the first time we saw Photoshop. Like it was that kind of thing. So it's not perfect, but it's interesting. And it really is kind of a little bit of that digital sketchbook that we've been wanting the whole time. So it's pretty neat. And since I'm here, I'm going to go hang out with Adobe later on today and tomorrow. So if you want to play with the pens, you should come by and check it out. So everything I just showed you is, the bookmark is chop.is. /tools2014. I'm on Twitter at Chopping Block, and I'm going to tweet it out shortly as well. Yes, if you want to take a picture of the screen, you can take a picture of the screen like that. So I've put a lot of time, and my team's put a lot of time into getting this tool kind of database online that you guys can use and enjoy it. And that's it. Thank you.